we got to start this at the top because we had a running back go third overall. Maurice, like this does not happen very often. Last time we've seen somebody go this high, Saquon, right at 2 in 2018. Tell everybody just when you break down the film of Jeremiyah Love, is he and should he be? When I talk to teams, some of them put him in the category of Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, like that type of back. Is he deserving of being in that group?
I think athletic ability, size wise, speed, he should be up there. I think the difference is Notre Dame didn't use him like those guys, right? So when I watched the draft and Coach Freeman's up there and he's like, well, he can do everything, and I'm like, well, you didn't have him do everything, right? Like, how am I supposed to watch that and engage that? You threw him some passes out of the backfield here or there, but you didn't line him up at wide receiver. You didn't really put him in position to really be an explosive player. And again, maybe that's because your O line was really good, and you're like, look, our best option is to turn around, hand this guy the ball, let him kind of make magic. When you look at Bijan, when you look at McCaffrey, who I think is the creme de la creme, Jahmyr Gibbs, right, Saquon Barkley, those guys were put in every situation to be successful. You're returning punts and kicks. You're playing wide receiver. They're finding ways to get you the ball. Notre Dame necessarily didn't do that. Now, do I think? I think he's in a great situation where they're going to utilize him a certain way. LaFleur was with me with the Rams. I know what kind of run game he wants to do. I know what he wants to bring to Arizona. We used to talk literally before and after games, right? Sometimes during games when the defense was on the field, he's in the booth next to me, and we'd be like giving hand signals. But he loves to run the football, and he understands what a running game can do for anyone, right? If you look at Matthew Stafford wins the MVP. They have a strong running game, and so a running back can really enhance your team, your offense overall. Because if you do have a strong running game, your offensive lineman going forward, you set up the play action pass. They have some really good receivers over there in Arizona that can do some great things. What I think he's going to bring, though, more than anything, is he's going to bring a physicality that they've had when Connor was running, right? So you're going to have him, Connor, and Tyler Algier, a physical backfield that can really, command 8 in the box. And that's going to help out Jacoby Brissett. That's going to help out, obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Wilson and those guys out there, Trey McBride. That's going to help those guys out. But on the other side, it's going to help the defense. And it's going to stop the defense from being on the field for 90 snaps like they were in the past because they were throwing the ball all over the place. And so I thought he was deserving. Okay, let me say this about the draft too. I thought the draft was top heavy. I didn't think there was a lot of depth in this draft in certain positions. And so you're going to see there was a big fall off with running back. I thought Love was the upper echelon of running back, and then there was other guys that were a little fall off behind him. But in this draft, I didn't think there was like there wasn't a bunch of quarterback, there wasn't a bunch of O linemen, there wasn't a bunch of DBs, there wasn't a bunch of DNs that you're like, oh, these are the guys, right? There were a couple of those guys, and then Jordan Love, who a lot of people had as the best player in the draft. He was my third best player. I had my tackle for Miami as one. Can never that guy
Manoa.
Still to this day. Manoa is the like that is my prototypical offensive lineman I want to run behind. You can put him wherever you want. Put him at, I could care less where you put him. If you watch this tape against Ohio State and James earmuffs, he bullied those dudes. Literally, they just ran behind him the whole time, right? And to me, that was you're talking about a defense that had 5 guys drafted in the top 15, top 12, or 4 guys.
All 11 from the national championship team 2 years ago got drafted this year.
There you go. And so they ran behind Manoa, which made him great. But needless to say, that was just that. But talking about Jordan Love, I think the situation now, if he'd have went to a team that wants to throw the ball a ton, that doesn't make sense to me. Arizona is a team that wants to be physical. They want to run that West Coast offense. They want to get downhill, and I think it's a great fit for them. And I think he's going to do wonders for them. And I think again, I wouldn't say he's Bijan. I'd have to wait to see. But if you see Bijan right now, Bijan's the number 1 running back in the NFL. It's not even close. Right, it's only like that because McCaffrey's age. He's starting to age out. Right, he's starting to get a little bit over. Even though he's doing some.
He was good this past year. He was great. He was their leading receiver.
Yeah. Right. Think about that. He's a lead receiver, but Bijan is like crazy, right? Yeah. And then Saquon had his 2,000 year last year, and they have their issues there. He's still doing well. Gibbs is like
Well, hold on now. You know, some people gonna hear this and they're gonna be like, "Man, Jameer Gibbs is the best." T- can you break
Yeah,
down why you
yeah,
think?
why do you
You know,
have? Yeah, good
what's
call.
I'm not
Okay,
doing six
so
seven.
no,
The
no, no,
meme.
no. I'm
I'm
about
just
to
like
tell you.
Oh,
asking.
1-2.
So,
We're doing
so
1-2
this
here.
is it goes back to the Jordan. It goes back to the Jordan Love deal, right? It's can you do more with less, right? When I
Mm,
look at Bijan Robinson and I see you throw a 2 yard check down route and he goes 80 yards in week one,
Mhm.
that's different. Now I'm not
Yeah.
saying Gibbs can't do that, but Gibbs, what do they do? What do they do with Gibbs? Receiver screens, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not like Bijan caught a pass, broke like four guys down, and went 80 yards to the crib.
Hmm.
yeah,
That to me makes
yeah.
you different.
Yeah.
He went
He's
50
also their
against the
number.
Panthers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I
But
saw him go against the Rams in a game the Rams needed to win. Take a carry, make two guys miss, and go 93.
yeah.
Right? I saw the Rams play Jameer Gibbs. I saw Jameer Gibbs do some great things, but he didn't do that. And
Yeah.
so to me, it's like I love Gibbs. I think Gibbs is top four.
Hmm.
But like again, I hold McCaffrey in high regard because McCaffrey does everything,
Yeah,
right? Still
facts.
run, catch, he does it all. I think Saquon with this new offense that he's in, a very similar version to the Rams, Niners, and all that. I think you're going to see him explode. I still think he has ability to do those things. But right now, Bijan is just his ability to run, catch. They put him at wide receiver, Steve,
Yeah.
and he runs post curls.
Yeah.
He runs comebacks. He runs speed outs,
Mm,
slants. He does it all. Like he just
yeah.
does everything. And it's again, it's not necessarily saying that the other guys can't. It's
Yeah,
that
it's
his
just
team
saying.
utilizes him that way.
Yeah.
It's
He
so.
was on
Can
third
you?
down, Steve. Remember we talked about it on third down. He was their second passing
Crazy.
option after Drake London. Like
Crazy.
that's what he
So,
was on
man,
everything.
you said two things though, MJD, that I need some clarification on. And one, the first one, so I don't forget. Man, you said the West Coast. The West Coast has changed because the West Coast, when you and I were playing, the West Coast was very West Coast. It was, the West Coast is typically timing anyway, but dragging and slaying all that stuff. How has the West Coast evolved from back when we played to where it is now? Because I know there are similarities. A slant is a slant. That's nothing changes, but there's some fundamental things in this new Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan,
Mike
whomever
LaFleur
you're
now.
talking about, Mike
Yeah.
LaFleur, in this offense. Explain to them and also help me understand the small nuances of the West Coast that has changed it to where it is today.
Okay, so it's a lot based off of personnel, right? If you notice, there was a run on tight ends in the draft. Why? Because the
12.
Rams went 13 personnel and they were
Mhm.
killing people, right?
Yep.
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 When I can line up in 13 personnel and run the same route concepts, the same run game as I do in 11, 12, 21, it forces you, it dictates the coverage to the defense. And so, or it forces the defense to dictate their coverage. So, you asked about a slant. Let's say if we have our tight end running a slant or Puka Nakua running a slant, they're going to be ran differently, right? And
Yes.
so, if you ever watch some of these tight ends, they don't take 3 step slants. Sometimes they do 5 steps. Sometimes they do 1 step, depending on your athletic ability, right? Because they're trying to make it time up with the quarterback the same way the receiver would. That's a little nuance they have there. The other part of the West Coast offense that's come into play is the play action pass, right? I've seen Sean McVay go play action pass and run double slants on the backside, and you're trying to hit the second slant, right?
Mm.
When a
Wow.
lot of times most people just drop back and just throw the second slant,
Correct.
they'll add a play action element to it. They'll have the first guy run a 1 step, and they'll have the second guy just mess around and like waste time at the line of scrimmage and then burst late and catch the ball, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of times it's all about, and this is again why I'm so intrigued by how Arizona's going to look and how Philly's going to look,
Yeah.
is how are you going to like twist this offense to make it be yours, right? Kyle,
Mm.
Hmm.
Sean, they all run the same stuff, but Kyle
Hmm.
runs it out of 21.
Hmm.
Sean runs it out of 13 and 11,
Hmm.
right? Uh, Seattle Seahawks ran it out of 11, right?
Yeah.
They ran it
12.
out of 12,
11
they
and
every
12.
12, right? So everyone has their piece to it. It's just how are these things gonna, how are you gonna help the Philadelphia Eagles? If you look at last year, and people don't talk about this, Bijan was in the same offense that the Rams was running. The
Hmm.
Yep.
exact same
Zach
offense.
Robinson.
Zach Robinson came from Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Yep.
And you saw him, they're running their offense out of 20.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No tight ends, or well,
Yep.
I would say not no tight ends. Kyle Pitts is a wide
Yeah,
receiver.
exactly.
I don't
Put him
count
in.
him as a tight end. I can care
Yeah.
less what you say. You can
Because
tell me
he's
he's
a,
a
he's a stand up guy. He's a stand up.
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me ask.
he's Jordan.
So
He's
let
Jordan
me
Reed.
yeah let me ask you this then. My second part where you're talking about all these different offenses. Can you tell me what traits does Love have that makes the Arizona Cardinals make him the third overall pick when they have a quarterback who traditionally doesn't really throw the football down the field? He's more of a timing guy, right? What are they gonna do, and what traits does he have that's really gonna make this worth that pick with all the other playmakers that they currently have on the roster?
Okay, so two things. One, they run the downhill duo scheme that we saw Kyron perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Notre Dame runs. If you go back and you look at the playoff game against Indiana when he went 98 to the crib, people think that's inside zone, but that was actually a duo play, right? Where they're double teaming up to the backers.
Yep.
It wasn't like side step. They're trying to crease the defense downhill. He just found a crease and went to the crib. You have a explosive player now that can take any run and go to the house, right?
Hmm.
Which threatens the defense. That's the first thing. The second thing is he has great vision and he has contact balance. So
Hmm.
now if I can create seams, I can get him to the second level untouched on top of the explosive long runs that he has. If I can get him to read it right, put his foot in the ground, if he does get hit, he's going to bounce off that guy and go to the crib. All of a sudden now I don't have to call, if you're the Rams, the chance of Kyron breaking, and I love Kyron, don't get me wrong, he just doesn't have the long speed, and everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
I know if we're at the 80-yard line or at the 20-yard line going out, we have 80 yards to go, the chances of Kyron breaking an 80-yarder are slim to none, right?
Yeah.
So that means I have to be ready, prepared to call a second play. As a play caller, you have to understand that, right? This is part of it. See, like if I throw a slant to Steve Smith, there's a chance he's gonna take that slant and go to the crib in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. We're good. That's an easy play call for me. But I know with Kyron, I have to have a second play call. With
Mm.
Love, there is no second play call. If he gets out in the open,
Mm-hmm.
it's over. It's good night. And so he brings an explosive element to an offense that's needed it. Right? If you look at James
Mm-hmm.
Conner was an explosive guy. He's a bully guy. He's going to run,
Yep.
beat
Yeah.
you up. He'll break a 20-yarder, 30-yarder, but that's about it. And so now you're adding an explosive element, something that the Rams have always wanted too. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
don't like. Let me say this. They drafted Blake Corum because he was faster than Kyron. And you saw there were times where Blake Corum was breaking 40, 50-yard runs to the crib, walking off on people, and the offense looked great. They scored 55 points against the Arizona Cardinals, right? Like off of an explosive run game. So that running back position and what Jordan Love brings to the table. Now I know they're going to probably utilize him more in the passing game and stuff like that, but just a traditional at the home position, a guy that can read, break tackles, and take it the distance. That is simply enough to have him at number three and what they want to do. Because to be honest, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy,
I love when you
the
get crazy.
Arizona Cardinals aren't that far off.
Dude,
Like
this is a good
they're
skill
really
group,
not that far
MJD.
off.
This is a good skill
Mm.
Yeah,
group. Like,
Yes,
and
I'll
they
tell you.
definitely
really
is.
and you watch they went and got O linemen. They
Yeah.
built a roster. You have the best tight end in the game on
Yeah.
your team. Like they're not that far off
Dude,
offensively. And
I s-
so what everyone's just saying, like, oh, they're so bad. Like, no, they're really not that bad.
go get
They just
yourself.
had some bad coaching the last couple years.
Get Sorsby in the supplemental draft, MJD. Then you're rolling when that rolls around. I want to get a couple of things in here about real quick, Steve, about them because what I did do some. I got to get my
Oh
research in
yeah.
for these guys.
Go
I
get your
know. I
stuff.
know Mike is telling people, Maurice, in that building, going, we didn't plan on running 13 last year. It just happened, and we grew it, and that can happen with us. We can figure out with these three backs what we're going to do and how we're going to adapt and change it. So he says to the people, we're not even there yet about how we're going to use him and Algier and Connor. We're going to figure it out. But I wanted to throw this in there, and this is what they think about him, and I'm kind of curious about your take on it. One of their favorite traits about him, obviously you mentioned the home run ability, the vision, that stuff, but they love that when things get like real muddy, he still finds ways to get you some of those hidden yards. Like that's an aspect. He doesn't chase big plays and search big plays. They do happen with him, but they love that he doesn't chase them and that he'll always try to find ways to just get those hidden yards in there. And they love the whole room. Like, I'm
Yeah,
curious
well,
to see what they do.
I would love that room too. You have three horses that can go. I
Yeah.
will say this: when you watch the tape, and if you watch Notre Dame, it's not many times it was muddy,
Yeah.
right? They got guys the next couple of years are gonna get like,
Drafted
and that was the
for
only
sure.
thing. And I'm gonna be if I can be honest, the reason I knocked him over those other guys it reminded me a lot of what Wisconsin used to have. When they used to have like Ron Dane and
Rondane, yeah.
all these running backs that would come out and they'd be all world, and you're running through these gaping holes, and you get in the NFL, and it's like the holes aren't like that anymore. You got to anticipate a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so that was a little bit of what I knocked them. And I know people are going to say, well, why do you not like, look, you got to understand when you're in college, you got to do more with less, right? In order for me, like how I see it, if you're a running back and none of your O linemen get drafted and you give me 1,000 yards, you've done more with less. I know I can put pieces around. You can go. I think with Jordan
That's
Love,
your Cam Scatteroo world. That's what you love.
tell me about. Hey,
Remember
were
that,
we not
Steve?
right about Cam Scatteroo?
Yeah.
You're
You
I
were.
right.
mean, I tried to
I,
tell you the guy was a ball and his leg fell
Yeah.
off, but other than that, he was great, right?
hey, so, hold
But
on, MJD. Let me ask you what is a realistic expectation to have with Jeremiah Love this year that you would deem success? Because you remember with Genty, there were some people who were like, "Oh, he can't play." It's, we wanted to
I
look
think
over
this is
and
a better
glaze over the
team.
fact that they weren't a very good team, right? That my man was getting hit. He was getting hit in the backfield damn near when he was getting the ball handed off to him. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
mhm.
realistic to have like, yeah, rookie of the year, his first year he's gonna look like a Hall of Famer. That's great. But what's something that's
Yeah.
really obtainable?
So this is what I'll tell you. Looking at their backfield and what they have. Obviously, him being drafted third overall, he's gonna play, right?
Hmm.
I would say 700 to 800 yards rushing would be a
Okay.
great year for him.
Hmm.
I would say more on the team scale if Arizona won 7 to 8 games, which I think they can.
Yeah.
Um, to me, those are obtainable goals for him, right? Like I'm not expecting you to rush for 1,200 or anything like that. Like you're going to be the lead guy, but they're gonna rotate you in and out, and
Oh,
we
okay,
gotta,
okay. Yeah.
there's things like that. But to me, I just think if you see the Cardinals win 6 to 7 games this year, which can possibly happen, it'll be a deal. And I wanted to talk real quick. James, you talked about the 13 personnel
Yeah.
and how it came about. You know how it came about?
When
Puka
they were on the
Nakua got
road.
hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
Puka Nakua got hurt in Baltimore.
Mm.
And what does Puka do for the Rams more than
In-
any? Everybody talks about
Insert.
all the receiving.
Yeah.
He's a blocker. He's
Yeah.
he's their biggest
Hmm.
run ball carrier, and he's their blocker. So if we don't have our biggest ball carrier, how can we get our best blocker on the field?
Hmm.
And so that's how it evolved. Is that all of a sudden we can run the same plays with three tight ends and one running back and Devontae Adams out there,
Hmm.
right? And now we're gonna load. If you play too high, we're just gonna run down your throat. If you go one high, we have Devontae one on one. And so I think with Arizona, again, if Jeremiah Love has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, be utilized as a weapon, you'll see some what we used to call 21 pony,
Yeah.
where two tailbacks are on the field.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
start to see some of those things coming about. But I do believe that LaFleur is going to turn around and hand him the ball a ton. Because
Yeah.
again, as much as we love Jacoby Brissett, who had an awesome year last year, and he deserves
Yeah.
all the money because he had to go through what he went through, he's still a journeyman quarterback that's
Yeah.
bounced around a lot,
Hmm.
and he's going to
Yeah.
need a ton of help. And
Yeah.
and so then I want to jump into the Ashton Genty before we move on. I tell people this, and I know me and Mike Rob got it. We were talking about it at the draft. This West Coast Mike Shanahan system is all throughout the league. If you look at it, the Green Bay
Everywhere.
Packers, the Raiders,
70,
all like
70%,
You
70
you
to
brought up Philly
75%
now.
of the league is running this
Hmm.
original offense, which, it's Shanahan, all that stuff, Gary Kubiak.
yeah.
There's so many different
Hmm.
iterations of
Ashton
it.
Genty is about to go crazy in this system.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it's not about mauling the guy in front of you. It's about position blocking. And the
Yeah.
defender can never be right. If you beat him over the top, you cut back. If you stay hooked, we go outside. It's that simple. I
Hmm.
ran it in college, and I tell people all the time. They made it so simple for me. Literally, my OC was Tom Cable.
Hmm.
Tom Cable was like, "Listen, I'm gonna make this very simple for you. This is who you read. If he goes out, you go in. If he goes in, you go out." I think I almost rushed for what? I had a rack of touchdowns, but I probably rushed for almost 1,200 yards my last year just doing that.
So hold on. hearing you say that, some general manager or Madden general manager is gonna sit here on the pod and be like, "Well, that's easy. Anybody can do that." Explain how difficult that is, and how many other players can't read that the way you just explained it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You have to have a skill set to be able to start and stop in that system, right? It's like Arian. I'll give you Arian
Arian
Foster.
Foster was the best at it.
I remember when Kyle Shanahan. We played the Houston Texans, and Kyle was like, "Maurice, we got this kid. He's gonna be really good next year." And I was like, "Who?" He was like, "Arian Foster." I had no idea who Arian was at the time, right? So I go out on a fantasy radio show and I go, "Look, man, I talked to a source. They say Arian Foster is gonna be the guy." Right? Source was Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
You go out, what he had was he had tempo in his run, which a lot of
Yeah, he
guys don't
did.
have. You can't tempo your run,
Patience.
and he had great vision. And when he was able to put his foot in the ground and accelerate,
And
he was
go.
one of the best out of it.
Yup.
It just what happened, right? And it was the perfect fit for this system. He was an
Mm,
undrafted guy out of Tennessee, all that stuff, but he ran that system really well. And so I tell people, for me, I had to learn tempo during that time. Because I
mm.
was used to just before my freshman year, it was just like we're going to hit downhill A gap. Let's just go. We running power, right? And then when I got to Tom Cable my sophomore year, he's like, bro, you got to tempo it up. Like you can't just be full speed because they're not. It has to. Everyone has to be in a at a certain spot at a certain time.
Yeah.
If you watch
And and
McCaffrey, which I
especially
think is
especially with Tom, he will pull the backside.
oh
He's pulling the backside guard. So you gotta let that guy get there because that backside guard, he is great with his short distance. Man, getting that motor going, it takes a while.
yeah, you have to set up blocks. And so
Mm,
I think that's the part where the hardest part of scouting a running back is can they set up blocks? Can they do certain things? Again, I go back to I call the games for the Rams. Kyron Williams is one of the best at setting up linebackers and keeping them stuck on linemen. If
mm,
if that if that's where he excels at. And so I think again when we're talking about all this stuff, Jeremiah Love has that ability. He can tempo his runs. He can one cut and accelerate. He has a home run speed. He has all these things. It's again the only knock I had on him was he played behind a great offensive line,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think those holes are going to be as big as they were when you're playing Pittsburgh and some of these other teams that you're playing.